What's up, guys? Jake here with Trailer Trash Racing. Starting a new video series for you guys called My Guide to Buying Crappy Cars and Getting Them Going. I need a better name than that, but that's what I'm going with right now. So this first video is going to be like an intro for the total beginner that doesn't know hardly anything about cars that wants to get into this, because I mean, I've got like 12 crappy cars right now. It's fun. So, you decided you want to get into the car world and start doing some stuff with some crappy cars. Step one, find a car you like. A lot of people get on Craigslist. I don't really like Craigslist. I use Facebook Marketplace for almost every car I buy. That's just personal preference on that sort of thing, where you want to buy your cars and how bad of a car you want to get. I prefer to buy cars that don't run for some reason and then figure out why and get them going, because you can get them a lot cheaper that way. If you want to buy a car that's running and it's good, then okay, you're done. Buy a car that's running and it's good, it's all the same, then you can just do some cosmetic stuff to it or maybe make it a little more powerful, whatever. That's an easier way to go. But if you want to do like me, you want to get in as cheap as you can, then you want to look for something that's not running. Now, there's a price number that you need to have of what you're willing to lose on a car, because worst case scenario, you buy a car that doesn't run and it won't run. You can't get it running, so you just scrap it. So you need to pay attention. What I do, I won't say you need to, what I do is to make sure I don't lose too much on these, is I weigh junk prices back and forth to how much I'm willing to lose. So, like, if it's got a title, I won't even look at it. If I see a car for $100, I don't care what it is. If it's got a title, I'll 100% buy it. If it doesn't have a title, there's still a pretty good chance I'm going to buy that car for $100. If it'll, I don't know, that's where it gets tricky, because if it'll turn over, like if I can go look at it and it'll turn over and it seems to be in good shape, and I check the oil and it's good, check the trans fluid and it's good, it's got antifreeze in the radiator, all the telltale signs that it could be made to run again, like it was in decent shape when it got parked, I'll usually spend $300 on it. But that's like after I look at it. If I'm not going to look at it, if it's just sight unseen, $100, that's my line. I'll give you $100 for it. I don't even have to come look at it. I'll just bring you cash and pick it up. So that's what you got to weigh back and forth. You got to figure out what you're willing to lose. A lot of people are willing to lose more money, so they'll spend more on stuff to take the gamble, but not me. I got a big family, so I do this as cheap as possible. Alright, so now I'm going to kind of go over some stuff that I've said. Turnover. A lot of people don't really, new people to this don't really know what I mean when I say turnover. If a car will turn over but not crank, this is what I mean. The motor turns with the starter, but it doesn't start. That's ideal. That's what you want. If you're buying a cheap car, that's what you want, because that shows that the motor's not locked up, and it shows that the starter's good. It shows that it'll spin over under its own power. It shows that the ignition works a little bit. You know, you at least know that you're getting fired to the starter and that sort of thing. So that's one of the main things that I look at. All right, so now you found you a car, you bought it, you took it home. It'll turn over, but it won't crank. So now you got to figure out why it won't. So a regular gasoline engine, I'm going to talk about gas engines because I've never owned a diesel. But gasoline engines need three things to start. They need air, they need fuel, and they need an ignition source, which is spark from your spark plug. So if it's missing one of those three things, it won't run. It won't start. So air, generally, there's not a reason it's not going to be getting air. You can check your air filter, make sure the pipe's not clogged, but 99% of the time that I deal with cars, it's getting air. It's always either a spark problem or a fuel problem. So I'm going to kind of walk y'all through how I figure out if it's a fuel problem or a spark problem. Super easy test. You can figure it out really quickly. Alright, so this is my 87 Buick that I got for free. And it didn't run when I got it. I had to figure out what was wrong with it. So the number one thing that I do if the car spins and won't start is locate the air intake. Usually this has a box that comes right over here and the air filter goes under here. Locate your air intake. you can take, there's a bunch of different ways to do this. You can take brake clean, carburetor cleaner, starting fluid, gasoline, whatever you want to use. If you use brake clean, make sure that the can doesn't say non-flammable, because they do make a non-flammable brake clean in some states. That won't work. But any kind of highly flammable liquid like that will work. So I like to use gasoline just because you usually got gasoline pretty cheap. You usually got a can of gas for a lawnmower or something around the house. You can use that. You can do it two ways. You can take it and dump it straight down this pipe, just a little bit, you know, just, it doesn't take much, just a little bit in a bottle or whatever, dump it down there. Or if you want it to run for a little while, another little trick I use that I got from a buddy of mine, you can take the air filter that's right here and pull the box off, and you can pour quite a bit of gas onto the air filter so that it soaks, and then it's going to always put off fumes, because fumes is what you use off the gas. That's what finds it. So once you do that, you get back in, you hit the switch. If you hit the switch and it starts, then okay, that means you've got a fuel problem, because you supplemented the fuel intake and it started. So you know you got a fuel problem. If it doesn't start, then that means you got a spark problem. There's a couple other ways you can check for that. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the spark thing, because spark, I'm going to show you how I check to see if you've got spark. But spark can be a little trickier. If you've got a spark but your timing's way off, that's a little bit harder to diagnose. If it's got like a poor spark, if it's not big enough to actually work well, it kind of makes the car run bad, or maybe makes it not start, that can be a little bit harder to diagnose and to fix. But just to show if you have spark, the way I do it, and it's easier if you've got a partner, you can do two things. You can either pull the spark plug wire. The way the spark plug works is it runs a hot through the center of the spark plug, through the top down to the little node on the bottom, and then the outside of it is grounded. The little tab that sticks over near it is grounded. And once the hot fires through the middle, then the ground, it arcs between the ground and the hot and makes a little spark to ignite it. So the way you can do this is you can take a spark plug wire, you can shove a screwdriver into the end of it where the spark plug goes, all the way in and make contact with the node, like so, and then hold this screwdriver close to the ground like this, and then get your buddy to spin it over, see if it sparks. Now, I know I'm gonna get a bunch of messages, people saying, you know, don't do it like that, there's a better way, blah blah blah. This is the way I do it, and it's worked for me. I've bought a ton of cars, I've got a ton of cars going. This car didn't run when I got it running. I don't know, that's the way I do it, super cheap. There is another way that you can do it, and I've done it both ways. Spark plug, that center node that sticks up is the part that gets the hot. The little tab that hangs over the top of it is the part that's grounded, and it's grounded through the motor through these threads. Whenever you screw it in, the block is grounded. So that automatically makes these two, whenever you send the electricity through the center part, it makes it arc between there and makes a spark. Okay? So another way that you can do it is just pull the spark plug, lay it on a piece of the engine that's metal, because your engine's going to be grounded, and then get your buddy to spin it over, and you can see if it sparks. And you can also check to see how big the spark is there. Okay? Okay, so like I said, I'm not going to get into the diagnosing the spark issue, because usually it's a fuel issue. 90% of the time that I buy these cars, it's a fuel issue. So, number one culprit that I always look at is the fuel pump or the relay for the fuel pump. Okay, and make sure your fuel pump's coming on. If it's not, check your relay, make sure your relay is making connection through. I'll make another video on how to check a relay and stuff. Usually an easy, cheap way to do it is you can swap out the fuel pump relay with like the windshield wiper relay. They're usually the same. Swap them and see if the fuel pump's still not coming on. If it's not, that means it's either a fuel pump, which is usually the case, or you've got a power issue getting, you know, between the relay and the fuel pump, you've got a power issue. That almost never happens to me. So this particular car that I was just messing with, the 87 Buick, was a fuel issue when I got it. The fuel pump was no good, and then when I put the new fuel pump in, I guess the relay was bad, and I could never get it to work, so I just put an external fuel pump and a fuel cell in the trunk, and I made it run. So, just gonna show you, spinning, wouldn't start. I wired my fuel pump up to the headlight switch because this is a race car. Hopefully you heard it come on. that's how I diagnose these cars. I could make another video getting into why you don't have spark, but that can be a number of issues. If it's a newer car like this, it could be not like this, but if it's a newer car, it could be coil pack, it could be your timing's way off, it could be that it jumped time or the timing belt broke. It could be a whole number of things, and that's a little more difficult. If you're a beginner and you come across an issue where it doesn't have spark, you might want to recruit some help to do that. But this is my guide to how I buy crap cars, and I get them going super cheap, and then I don't mind doing dumb stuff in them. If you've seen my other videos, I've flipped cars before on purpose. This particular car was in a trailer race. I do a bunch of Gambler 500 stuff. Those are really fun. So if you're looking to get into it, that's what I use. Maybe this video will help you. You can use that guide to kind of figure out what kind of car you want to buy, figure out how deep you want to go into it and stuff. If you already know what you're doing, don't worry about how I do it. I don't need a bunch of messages telling me I do it wrong, because it works for me. So, thanks. Also, real quick before I forget, if you're on Facebook, go to Trailer Trash Racing. That's my personal page. It's the main page for this. YouTube, also just search Trailer Trash Racing. All my videos will come up. It's under Jacob Stewart. Instagram, Trailer Trash Jake. Wherever you can find me. I'm sure you're seeing this somewhere. So just follow. Thanks.